What's up, guys? It's John at National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to cover the playoff week just because, for two reasons. One reason is, again, there's lines that are just they're starting to move a little bit quickly. It's really the Chiefs game that is moving, and I looked at all the different value plays as far as the best way to go about these games because I have no doubt that we know exactly who's going to win. But I also I have no doubt as well that Vegas and the NFL, ESPN, Disney understands just how many people know that it's scripted for particular matchups. So we have the Ravens lying in wait, and I just think they're going to give us Browns Ravens. There's just no way around it. And the reason I like it is the literal only way we can get Browns Ravens is if the Browns win, the Chiefs win, and the Bills win. Now, I don't think the Bills game is a shock to anybody, so it's a Sunday game. I'm basically just going to hit the AFC today. Going is almost Friday, so you guys will have it a day in advance at least. And I'll hit the NFC games the next day. Now, there's not too much that would change as far as this, because if the Chiefs played on Sunday, it would throw a lot of things off. At first, I wasn't sure. I didn't think both AFC teams were playing on Saturday, but I guess they are. But either way, sometimes it's like a contingency type deal. And these are definitely contingencies. Like, for example, if the Texans were to win this game, then it does make it where we have a lot of other scenarios now. But essentially, I still stand by my theory that we're not going to get Bills Dolphins again. I also don't think we're going to get Ravens Dolphins. It just doesn't seem like a matchup that they're going out of their way to have happen. To me, Browns, Ravens, Chiefs, Bills just writes itself. Sure, again, you could have a Steelers win, but that would match up the Steelers and Ravens for the third time this year. Just a very boring matchup. It's not like the Browns where, again, we have a different quarterback and it's a completely different dynamic. So anyway, I think this is going to be a very trappish week. So against my typical better judgment, where I always recommend not playing parlays because they are just value killers in most regards. I think this weekend is at least this slew of games is the perfect games to run parlays on because again they are directly contingent on each other. If it's one of them where if we get the first one, I'm almost positive we're going to get the next two. Of the three, I guess if I had to pick an upset, it would probably be the Chiefs because them getting booted really early would be interesting. And it wouldn't throw things off as drastically as the others, although it would still lead us, again, to probably Bills, Dolphins, Browns. Or I'm sorry, it would be Browns would play the Bills, I think, and the Dolphins would play the Ravens, which we could get that. Again, I just don't think that's what we're going to get. So anyway, it looks like 2 points, not a big deal. We could just take the Browns to win. The problem with that is 100 only wins you 75. Whatever you're betting, 50 is going to win you 37.50. A pretty heavy juice there. So it's a minus 135. So I looked at all the different possibilities, and there's a few that I like. But for the sake of making things concise, and also, again, just for the sake of extracting value, I think there's only one way to play these games. And if there's a better value play that you see, then, of course, go ahead and play it. Sometimes you'll get better odds on if wins than parlays. So, for example, you just put your bet on the Browns, say 4 units, because that's what I think this play is worth, and take that winnings and, of course, the original investment from that, plop it on the Chiefs, and then do the same with the Bills. Sometimes you'll get paid better that way, so you'll just have to see what pays better. It's the same deal, though. With the parlay, of course, some people have like parlay cash outs, so you might have a couple better options. At the end of the day, the value is going to be close to the same. And as much as it seems counterintuitive to play a parlay when you got a -2, I we've made some pretty bold predictions on the channel, and some have aged very well. Some have aged terribly. I think this is going to be one of those predictions that we get down to the point, and I genuinely think this Browns Texans game is going to be a 1 or 2 point game. It just screams it to me. Again, I think the public's going to be on Cleveland, and most of the people are just going to take the -2. I'm really seeing a 21-20 type deal. I could be wrong. But anyway, I like the Browns to win. So what I'm doing personally is I'm parlaying. Now, just so you know, if you parlay just the Browns and Bills, it's plus 108. So it is even. We don't even have to play the Chiefs in the parlay. We could just do Browns and Bills. And then we could parlay Chiefs and Bills in a separate one, something of that along that nature. But again, it kind of all leads us down the same path. So what I'm personally doing is I have the Browns winning. Again, it just makes sense. CJ's already defied history. I think they could have him have a game-winning drive where they shank the field goal, or there's a bad penalty that's called on the Texans that calls a playback, and the fans cry that the Texans got screwed, something of that nature. Kind of checks all the boxes, blames the referees, but it gets the matchup they want. And again, I could totally see a 21-20 type game. So I personally am taking the Texans to win. I'm sorry, the Browns to win. I'm parlaying that with the Bills. There's not much explanation needed on the Bills. I know a few people telling me the Steelers are going to upset them. Without Watt, I just don't see why they would do it. I could understand if they have this like really unified team like you're seeing with the Lions and some other teams, and their coaching is carrying them to victory. But to me, it just makes perfect sense that they made the playoffs. Now they can make if they could do a trade for Fields or a trade for somebody. I hear Russell might want to go there. There's a lot of things the Steelers can do. They could draft somebody in the second, third round, push them up, whatever they need to do. I don't think the Steelers are any kind of draw, and I don't think this upset makes sense. And if anything, at 10 points, even though the Bills have looked good, I would think, the true degens would want to get the good money line. So I don't think the Steelers, I don't think there's any warrant to them winning. Of course they can. Again, my point is Browns, Bills is plus odds. And to me, taking that is way safer than taking the Browns to cover. I have more faith in getting both of these money lines than I have in the Browns game not being a trap. And as I said, this is just the route I'm going to be going. I think it's the best way. I'm just personally going 3-team parlay, with the third team being the Chiefs. They're at -225. So again, you could just go Chiefs and Browns, and you're getting plus 150. And then, if you want to play the Bills spread separately, whatever you want to do. Personally, I'm suggesting Browns, Chiefs, Bills, 3-team parlay. You're looking at about plus 205, plus 210. So we're getting well over 2-1 here. And again, I do, as you know, I do 1 unit, 2 units, 4 units. It's leg 1, leg 2, leg 3. Leg 3, 4 units is the highest we're going to play, because after that we shut it down. So basically it's we play a game for leg 1. If it misses, we do 2 units on it for leg 2. If that misses, we do 3 units on it for leg 3. It's very unprecedented for me to use a parlay as a leg 3. And the term leg, I know it's used in parlays. For me, it's just a level system. Just think Martingale, and it's just our third crack at it. But my point is, typically with parlays, obviously you have a lot of things that need to happen. So a lot of times I'll just make a parlay for 1 unit or something like that. But I love all 3 of these games, and I don't want to waste the value. So getting plus 200 on a leg 3 would be amazing, because it's a 4-unit play. And usually with the system, you're doing a unit, 2 units, 4 units. Anyone that follows like the membership sites knows exactly what I mean. But anyone that doesn't know about my actual system, I'm briefly explaining it. We did it with the Vikings last week. We had them as a leg 2 for 2 units. They did not win. We did the Rams as a leg 3 for 4 units. And the way it typically works is 1 unit, 2 units, 4 units is 7 units risked. If we get the leg 3 for 4 units, it's 8 units. We've profited a unit. But if you look at the Rams last week, we put them as a leg 3, and they were almost 2-1. So we actually profited like 3 units on that sequence. And it was like a 6-7 unit profit on the day. So this is worth a leg 3 in my opinion, just because I can't see any of these teams losing. And again, the Bills play the next day, so if you just want to parlay Browns and Chiefs, you're still getting, like I said, it's about plus 150. And then you could still, if you want to put that on the Bills the next day, it's going to pay around the same. So no matter which path you go, it's going to really lead us to the same, hopefully desired destination, assuming that the three teams we have advancing all advance. So I'll be going into the NFC ones, of course. Of course, the AFC ones aren't going to affect the NFC ones too much. Down the road, they will, of course, but right now they don't really play a role. And I'll go into the NFC ones. The NFC ones are a little trickier just because we have a trap down here with the Eagles, what looks like a trap. So it's very still up in the air, my opinion, on that game, to be honest. Rams, Lions, love the money line, but the question is, do they cover? Kind of very similar to the Browns, Texans. And then Packers, Cowboys at -7. Not a great game for picking a spread. It could be a close game. So again, I'm going to probably do something very similar with the NFC that I did with the AFC. And since it'll be for Sunday, we might even be throwing the Bills in another parlay. So we might just run Bills, Cowboys, Lions or something. Again, we're really putting our conviction here in just the matchups that we've predicted for a while now. So metrics are kind of out the door. The traps are kind of out the door. I'm just picking what I believe gives us the absolute best playoffs. And not only that, but it avoids giving us a very boring divisional and championship round where we might get, again, boring teams playing each other again, sometimes for the third time. The only rematch that makes sense to me is Browns Ravens, and Lions Cowboys down the road, just because of the way that it's established the rivalries. The other ones, Dolphins Bills, makes no sense to me. That's why we had the Bills winning. So it seems like we're over the target here. Steelers playing the Ravens makes no sense at all to me. So it's the reason I love all three of these games. So yeah, you can use this against me if I wind up looking like a schmuck. But I'll just say, mark my words, this Browns Texans game is going to clip a lot of people. And this Chiefs Dolphins game opened at 3. It's moved to 5. So it's another reason I think it's optimal. Even at 3, it was 3. It might have been 3.5. I don't even like that. I probably still would have done the parlay because, again, you see Cleveland here at 2, and I think people just assume, oh well, 2 points is great. We should definitely get it. And there's so many 1-point games, and or 2-point games where you might get just a push on it. So for me, the way to go here is the wins. And again, Browns Ravens just writes itself. I don't think they would have gone this far just to pull the plug. So I love that matchup. Chiefs Bills, again, writes itself. At this point, if there were some different teams in the playoffs, maybe the Jaguars or a team like that, I could certainly understand a different matchup. But they really have left us where if we don't get the matchups that I think we're going to get just repeat matchups from like 2, 3 weeks ago, or two uninspiring teams playing each other where it's nothing like this week. So I can't imagine they'd kick off, the playoffs as like, scripted as possible. And again, ESPN knows because when they were putting out their last article, oh, look at these rivalries. This just, history is crazy. Everyone, like every other comment was, and I went into it in my video, somebody saying, great script, NFL. What do you got for us next week? So people are onto it. That's why I just am thinking of all weeks, this is the perfect week for them to, again, get the desired outcome they want, but give us like a 1-point Browns win and give us like a 2, 3 point Chiefs win. That's just what I think they do. Of course, I could be wrong. So if you think I am and you're like, nah, I think we're safe, do whatever you want. But my suggestion is Texans, fade them. So we got the Browns winning -135, with the Chiefs winning -225, with the Bills around -500, and that combination is going to give us over 2-1 odds. So nothing too crazy. I kind of went into it in my last video, so I'm not going to, waste time explaining each and every aspect of why I like these teams. Obviously, Browns Texans is a very interesting one. Youngest versus oldest. Again, CJ's already got so many of his flowers. To me, it just makes perfect sense that they have Flacco advance. Dolphins Chiefs, I think they're already establishing that the Dolphins are the team that starts off hot and then fizzles out. they're talking about how it's happened a couple years now. So I think that they established that they need a slightly better defense, a couple changes to be made to how their team is. Kind of similar to Pittsburgh, only Pittsburgh's problem's the offense. And someone else pointed out how it's interesting because with Cleveland, Baltimore, we get the number one offense versus the number one defense. So I didn't know that until it was brought to my attention. So again, it's just so many different dynamics that make me feel like we have to get Browns Ravens. And the great thing about that is, since the Dolphins and Steelers are 6 and 7 seeds, they absolutely need to win the game to make it where we don't get Browns Ravens. So the only way we get Browns Ravens, unless it's the AFC Championship, which again I just don't think we're gonna get a couple uninspiring matchups just to get the Browns upsetting teams and playing the Ravens. It just seems like a very counterintuitive move. Whereas we could just get them in the next round, have a great matchup, and then get a much better matchup, like as I went into before, like something like Bills Ravens in the championship. So yeah, Browns, Chiefs, Bills. So technically all favorites winning. Again, Browns Texans. This happened last week where people were telling me, there's no way there. Like the Saturday and Sunday games, there's no way that the Steelers are going to win against the Ravens and the Texans are going to beat the Colts because they're both underdog or they're both favorites. Same with the Bills. That was the next night. And again, when you're talking 2 points, I don't really consider that a favorite underdog type deal. I think anything that's more than 3.5 points, you can start talking favorite underdogs. If it's within a field goal, I just don't consider it an upset, you know. And it's also looking at the teams. So while Bucks Eagles is within a field goal, I think most people would admit the Bucks winning is a major upset. Whereas if the Texans do it, I don't think people would be looking at it the same way. So I always look at that too. So I don't look at it as like heavy favorites winning. I look at it as the two teams that are most likely going to, and the Chiefs Dolphins, I think a lot of money is going to be on Miami. The Chiefs have looked bad. The Dolphins have looked a little worse as of late. But when two teams haven't looked that good and you're getting plus 200 on one of them, just makes me think more money is going to be on the Dolphins. Now, another reason I think the Browns win, but maybe don't cover, and it's the reason I love the parlay. For the people telling me that the Ravens are too obvious and the Niners are too obvious, right now, this is according to ESPN, so they could be lying out their teeth. But right now, and all the other sources are saying it too, the number one team, pretty much far and away with handle, as far as the most handle on any team, is the Browns with 30%. So right now, 30% of the money is on them to win the Super Bowl. So again, you would stand the reason that people have them winning and advancing, but it's a futures bet. So again, them getting to the Super Bowl doesn't cut it for the people that 30% of the people that have them winning it, or if they win here and lose in the next round, etc. So not too worried about that, but it also proves that ESPN could be lying about these handles, and assuming they're not, there's not as much money on the Ravens and Niners as people think. And don't forget, the Niners are getting plus 200. When you see that, and then you see Detroit getting like plus 600, or I think better, you have to understand that people are trying to get value too. So not a lot of people are going to be, in my opinion, farming into the Niners to get a 2-1 on a future where they have to win 3 games. It just makes no sense in my opinion. So it's the reason I don't think and don't subscribe to the theory that Ravens Niners is too obvious, all those different things. So yeah, it's my official picks. Again, I did a poll and it seems like, well, most people are more interested in doing like the game time, kind of like last week, but a little bit closer to the game, so we can kind of talk about the game. I'll have it on where I'll be able to see what's going on, so we can see some of the shenanigans in action. So yeah, it'll be our live will probably be around 4, maybe like 4:15 on Saturday. Of course, I haven't checked the poll, but I mean when I checked it several hours ago, the four I just basically went into the 4 best times pre-game, during the game, towards the end of the game, or going into the next game. And most people wanted to do the going into the Browns Texans game, which I figured they would. And it's my preference too because we can kind of hit it from the beginning. So Yeah, it'll probably be around 4 o'clock on Saturday for anyone that wants to attend that. Our last one was great. Bills came through for us, so obviously we looked pretty good. But on top of that, it was just fun. It was positive. Talked about a lot of different fun things. I know obviously it's a sports channel. We're going to go into all that, but I always love when people ask me about other things because it's more of a chill session where we just talk about everything. We were watching the game. We can always talk about that, but people talking about theories and movies and what's going on in the world, whatever the case may be. And that's always fun. So, as always, we had a great live stream, one of our better ones. And again, they're all basically the same. So, I always appreciate that. But I figured I'd give out a little more notice this time, see what time is best for people. So, it's looking like around 4:30, right around game time. We'll be going live for the Browns Texans. And of course, of the three of them, that one's really going to determine the most because, like I said, my whole mindset is Browns Ravens, which of course could be a swerve. You never know. I'm the first to admit that. But when you have the other two games, Steelers and Dolphins, where they really affect that game completely, where again it's not like there's a couple different paths. If the Dolphins or the Steelers win, it completely puts the kaput on the Browns Ravens, and unless again we get it in the AFC Championship, which I just don't see happening. So yeah, if you want to lay the 2 points and then do the Bills Chiefs parlay on a separate one, however you think you're going to get the best value. I never tell people how to make their plays, but I also always like to advise how I personally am going and what I think is the best way to go. And I was looking through this for like the last 30 minutes or so, just really trying to see the best value. And the two that popped in my head were, well, yeah, it was really two. It was just taking the Browns and Bills straight, in a two-team parlay, just to get the plus odds, and then also looking at the Browns and the Chiefs, where you're looking at plus 150. And I thought about it, and of course, it would suck to like do Browns, Chiefs, Bills, get the first two and miss the third part. Where that's like just a small boost where obviously it's like one of those where if you put it in a parlay and then you miss it, you're like, why the hell did I put that in the parlay? That was just greedy of me. But in this case, I do think it's a genuine boost. I do think it's a genuine parlay booster that knocking it from plus 150 to plus 200. It's a pretty nice little jump. And again, I just don't see us getting any different results in the next round. So and like again, if the Browns are to lose, obviously we'll be doing a live video, so I'll still go into it. But I still don't see it changing too much. Like if the Browns lose, knocking out the Chiefs doesn't make much more sense in my opinion. It just knocks out one more draw, one more matchup. So not too many crazy contingencies like I thought there might be. If the Dolphins are playing on Sunday, like late Sunday night, it would be a little different. But they're playing back to back, so you can do them like I said straight up. But I'm going parlay. Texans lose, Dolphins lose, and Steelers lose. That's just what I think happens. Of course, of all of them, I know people, and even though the handles on the Browns, there's a lot of people pulling for the Texans. So I could see a lot of money on the Texans in this game. So definitely seems like one again. We could definitely get a win no cover because probably most of the Texans, probably for both these teams actually, you're probably gonna have people on the money line more than the spread. So I could be wrong. With the Browns, you might have people just saying again, it's 2 points. What the heck? I'll buy it down to 1.5. Then again, probably get a 1 point game. So it's a little safer, a little more cautious than I typically do. But since I believe we have just a complete dead read on the playoffs, specifically the AFC side, I genuinely think we're going to get just a routine Browns one. I wouldn't say routine. It's going to be a pretty crazy game, in my opinion. Again, where it winds up being, and this two could move to 2.5, 3. You never know. So there's a lot of things that could happen. So yeah, just locking in the Browns, Chiefs, and Bills is definitely the play, in my opinion. All three have, again, reasons that I think they're going to win. The narrative with the Chiefs and Dolphins is going to be Mahomes misses Hill more than he thinks. And of course, I think Hill's going to have a great game. But then on the other end, I think it's going to be, well, Tua's not Superman. And there's only one Superman. And that's why I like Mahomes on rushing props. I think they're going to find a way to get it done. This 5 point spread is very fishy, especially since it moved. makes me think it'll be like a 3-4 point game. So yeah, I have much more faith in taking these money lines than I do taking the spreads. And the value is, it's not like we're just getting even odds for a 3-1 here. We're getting 1.5 if we just go with the first two. But I'm going to throw in the Bills just because, like, I don't even think there's a reason to go into that game. Of course, I'll go into the DeMar connection, so I'll have a video out going into that game. But to me, that's just a boost, and hopefully it's not a trap boost. But I just don't. I think there's a reason it's 10 points. Vegas is basically telling people Bills are winning. Just a matter of if they cover or not. And I don't know where people are going to be on the cover again, to be honest. So, yeah, I thought it was nice when I saw it was over 2-1 to get these three teams. Of course, the Browns Texans is the biggest part of the reason. It would have been closer to like 2.5-1 just a couple days ago, but the Chiefs moved. I don't see the Chiefs moving anymore. Usually they won't move that much. To move from a field goal to a touchdown would be pretty astronomical. That's why, again, I don't think these games are indicative of just public action. I think a lot of these spreads are just psychological tools that they use. And a few other people have gone into that theory, and I think it makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, just one last time. I know I said it a bunch, but just officially, I'm personally playing 4 units, which is a leg 3 for me. And it's just going to be the one parlay. We're going to go Browns to win straight up, Chiefs to win straight up, and Bills to win straight up. So, again, the other good thing about that is we will have plus 150 in the bag essentially going into the Bills. And I know a lot of different apps and different sports books will offer like an early cash out. At the very least, there'll be hedge potential to throw a couple bucks on the Steelers and guarantee a profit. So it really is kind of looking at it like Price is Right, almost trying to get the exact value that makes the most sense. Or like Jeopardy, where you do the final Jeopardy question, you're like, okay, running through all the scenarios to see which combination is going to get you the absolute best chance of profiting and the least chance of losing. And I just think this is the way to go. So the fact that the Steelers are heavy underdogs, should we get the Browns and the Chiefs, leaves it open that going into Sunday, we should have a very easy way of getting a profit just by letting it ride, which I think is probably the way to go. Or if you're getting a little cautious, throw a few bucks on the Steelers and you should be looking at a smaller profit, but probably still a profit. Just not the plus 200 because you're going to have a hedge in there. So, yeah, I thought about it for a while and I think this is definitely the way to go. So, nothing too crazy because you already kind of knew who I was going to be putting out for those games. I will probably retouch on the Steelers Bills because the over under will be interesting. And again, we could still play the spread separately. There's no problem with that. But I really wanted to hit the ones that, again, I think is the best value. If we catch this leg 3, 4 units as a plus 200, very good payout for only playing a couple games. Obviously, it's not like last week where we had so many games to choose from and we just cleaned Vegas's clock because there's only a handful of games. But I do like the fact we have the AFC games first because we can kind of play them together and then we can do the same deal with the NFC teams. So yeah, let me know what you think. I know some people again telling me Steelers. Not many people telling me Texans, but I've seen a few, and it seems pretty unanimous that the Chiefs are going to win. I haven't seen many tell me the Dolphins, except a few that have them winning the Super Bowl. Which again, you never know. They certainly could. I just don't think it makes much sense. And again, it's all really, to me, this is all boiling down to Flacco versus the Ravens. They've already done it with. We predicted it with Stafford and Goff playing their former teams. So the Joe matchup to me is just too intriguing not to take. And if a Dolphins win would not change much, and then the Browns would still play the Ravens, then of course I wouldn't be nearly as sure on it. Same with the Steelers. But we'd have to believe like the Steelers would have to win, and then we're going to get what, like Steelers, Chiefs, or something. It just, I don't see people buying into, or I guess they would play the Ravens and the Browns would play the Chiefs. And again, I just don't see either of those being nearly as efficient draws as Bills, Chiefs, Ravens, Browns. So, yeah, I think they're going to continue with the narrative and just script it the way that they've been scripting it, but also think, okay, these wise guys think they have our number, we're going to clip them while we're at it. So, we're going to make the Browns win by one. The Chiefs are going to wind up being a clip. So, like the opening line might have covered, but then it won't, and et cetera. So, I think it's a perfect week to stay away from spreads. Now, some spreads might be worth taking, but like week 18, we had a lot of underdogs winning. So, it didn't really come into factor too much because, of course, if I have them winning, I have them covering. So, we just took the money line and did better. In this case, we have mostly favorites winning, so it does change things considerably, which is why I've decided the parlay is definitely the way to go. So yeah, let me know what you think. Again, I always appreciate everything. Let me know what you think of the live if you think that's a good time. If you want to vote on that, that's on the community page. Just thought that'd be a good way of making sure the most people that want to be able to just shoot theories and talk during the game, before the game, all that, can get in at it at the best time for them. So that's why I decided to do the poll. And yeah, uh, doing good so far. We got the exact matchups we thought, so that might be why I'm a little more confident in who's going to win said matchups. And like I said, it'll be at some point Saturday. I'll go into the Sunday games. I'll do a little bit of reiteration on the Bills. Might do another video going into Dolphins Chiefs specifically, if we're going to maybe play the spread separately, or if the over under looks interesting. And again, I'll have my live video. I'll be doing that before the Browns game starts. So any kind of questions people have regarding props I like, or different types of plays for the Chiefs game, or the next day's game, obviously I'll be able to go over that during the live video. So that's why I thought doing the first game would be the best way to do it. But I wanted to just hit these games. I could have just done a video for all three games separately. There's no reason to do that, because again, we're picking them all as one. So I figured I'd make it as easy as possible for people, but also, again, to me, in my opinion, the best value and the best odds we have of hitting our respective games. I just have a strong, strong feeling if somebody plays these three game spreads, they're going to miss at least two of them. I don't know why. Again, it's the playoffs, so they're going to give us some close games. So, Browns, Texans, of all the teams, screams of a close game. Dolphins, Chiefs just screams of a clip since it's moved like 2.5 points. And Bills, Steelers, not much of a read on that, except I would be shocked if the Steelers won the game. So, makes me like the Bills. And they're a good booster. Like I said, they knock it up. Just putting them with the Browns is plus odds. So there's many ways you can go about it. I'm throwing the Chiefs in it, making it a three-teamer. That way we can roll into Sunday, hopefully hitting two of the three and having the easiest game, the biggest favorite of the entire weekend, just needing to win to finish it off. I think that's the way to go. So again, always let me know what you think. If you think I'm reading into it too much, maybe you don't think we get Browns Ravens, or you don't think we get it just yet. If you think the Steelers are going to win, I'm curious who you think they play next. Like, I think they would play the Ravens. So I'm curious, like, if you think that would be a draw, or if you think the Steelers could win that game too, what you think would happen. I've looked at all the scenarios, and it's one of those here where, again, without the exact outcome that I've provided, it just leads for a pretty ugly divisional round, no matter which way you look at it. So you got the Texans in there if they're able to win, which is always going to be a draw. They could play the Ravens, who they played in week one. Texans Chiefs would be a cool match. Texans Bills. So I get Texans have some draws, but it just ruins all the other games where we would not get Dolphins Bills. We would not get Ravens Bills. We would not get, again, Browns Ravens, all these different matchups. So yeah, I'm very confident with it. And there's always that, like, those weird things where it's like, oh, if the Texans win, they'll both be 11-7. Same with the Steelers. I'm not too subscribed to that theory, to be honest, just because so many times I've looked at it this year with the NBA, with the NFL, and it just doesn't break that way. They like their palindromes, but it's not like they're built around palindromes. There's plenty and plenty of games where that could have been the case and it doesn't happen. And again, I mean, just the Texans and Steelers winning is just something I can't buy in a million years. So if there's going to be one upset, I think it's coming out of the NFC. And again, there's two games that, in my opinion, just scream of potential upsets. So that's what I think happens. I think the AFC is going to be pretty routine outside of, like I said, maybe the spread being fishy. So we're rolling with the money lines. Of course, you can do whatever you want, but I just think Browns, Chiefs, Bills getting the 2-1 on three teams that really should win. Again, in a scripted or real league, they make sense to win. And since we know it's a scripted league, they make even more sense to win. So take care and happy earnings.